So I'm Helen Lavery. I am Regional Engagement Partner with Zero Waste Scotland, and I'm joined by a couple of colleagues today. So Louisa has dropped out of the meeting just because we don't have a huge number of people joining us today. So we've got Leslie and Peter, and I'll let Leslie and Peter quickly introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Leslie McMurtry. I work in the Cities and Regions team with Helen, and I'm actually just along to see how one of these goes today. So I'm an observer rather than potentially active within it, but I will take part, I'm sure.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Peter McCafferty. I work in the wider circular economy team at Zero Waste Scotland. My focus is specifically on our circular economy business support service. So working with SMEs and non-SMEs to explore new and different ways of working, which is obviously the theme of today's session.
Thank you both. So very quickly, a bit of background to Zero Waste Scotland. So we are funded by the Scottish Government, and we exist to lead Scotland to use products and materials responsibly. And we focus our work on where we can have the biggest impact on climate change. And everything we do here at Zero Waste Scotland is informed by research, and we use these insights to inform policy and to motivate individuals and businesses to embrace the environmental, the economic and the social benefits of a circular economy. So we've got quite a lot to get through in the next 2 hours, and we'll kick off with some introductions from everybody in a second, and then I'll give an overview of the circular economy. We'll then do our first workshop session, but I think we'll just stay into one group, in one smaller group rather than breakouts. Then we will look at some circular economy strategies that businesses can use to improve efficiencies within their models. And then we'll have another session where we are going to have a look at some fictional businesses and explore ways of making them more circular. And then we're going to close off with some overview of the support that's available from Zero Waste Scotland, and we'll open it up to any final questions at the end of the session. So we will go straight into some introductions. So I'm going to go around the virtual room and hopefully everybody will be okay to say who they are and what organisation or business that they come from today. So first on my list, if you're there, I've got Carla.
Hi, I don't know if you guys can see me, but I can see everyone else.
I'm just getting a black screen, unfortunately, but we can hear you, and that's the main thing.
Okay, I think so. I've got my work computer, and I don't actually see like a video camera anywhere on it. So sorry. So my name is Carla Sermani. I work for the Dell of Abernethy, which is located in Nethy Bridge. I just started there, so I'm going to be their assistant manager. So it's not my own personal business, but so we do lots of yoga retreats. We got self-catering, big lodges, cottages, and we do workshops. We got a big TP. We do lots of gigs and stuff. So, I mean, I'm sure I won't be able to bring much to this course, but I'm sure I'll be able to take a lot back with me. I'm just really excited to see what ideas and information that you guys can give us. I'm really excited.
Excellent. Thank you, Carla. Lovely to have you along today. And then next on the screen, I can see Jane.
Hi, my name's Jane Booth. I work for Innes House. I look after the events and weddings. We also do corporate events, and we are looking into breaking into the travel tourism trade, and we let the house out. We do have other properties that are up and coming to let out as holiday lets as well. So I joined this course because I'm interested in looking at the circular economy and what we can do here to work better, basically, and create less waste. So
excellent. Thank you, Jane. And then next on my screen is Karen.
Sorry about that. It's running a bit late. So I'm Karen Fullerton. I work at Ballandalloch Distillery. I'm a huge supporter of the circular economy, and I joined this meeting today just to learn more about it and how we can actually inject more of a circular economy that we're already doing just now at Allendale Distillery going forward. And lovely to meet you all.
Excellent, thank you, Karen. And then we've got Joanna.
Hi, I'm Joanna Taylor. I one of the directors of the development trust in Forres that has an interest in tourism, and have been working alongside Visit Murray Speyside for a while in that respect, and very interested to just learn more about the circular economy and what we can do.
Excellent, thank you. And then next on my screen is Jennifer.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, thanks.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Middlecoat and I'm joining from Duffus Estate today. So we're looking at lots of different ways to become more sustainable and to minimise the impact that we're having on the environment, and the circular economy seems to be a really good framework for that. So here to find out a bit more about it.
Excellent, thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
and
you.
Then I've got Karen.
I'm Karen Sutherland. Can you hear me? We've got a small glamping site beside Brodie, and yeah, just the same as everybody else, want to find out a bit more about what we can do to reduce waste and help. So
Excellent, thank you. Have I missed anyone? Victoria?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Victoria Butler and I'm at the Loft, which is just in between Forres and Elgin. We're a glamping and camping site and we're an events venue for weddings and gigs, and interested in seeing what more positive changes we can make.
Excellent, thank you, Victoria. Now, did I get everyone? The problem with that is as soon as people talk, everybody jumps around the screen, so it's hard to keep track of the list. Did everybody get a chance to introduce themselves there? Shout out if you didn't. So we'll take that silence as we covered everybody. Well, it's great to have you all along here today to start this conversation, or to continue a conversation you might have already been having around circular economy and what it means for the wider economy, what it means for us as individuals, and then what it could mean for your own business going forward as well. So we'll jump straight into an introduction to the circular economy. And we can't really talk about the circular economy without first having a look at the current dominant linear model, where we take resources from source, we create something from them, we use it, and then we dispose of it. And this linear model is what drove the Industrial Revolution. It's allowed people to overcome challenges around food production and housing and clothing, and it's driven technological advances and innovations for decades. But today, the downsides of our linear approach are increasingly apparent and damaging. So I'm going to do a quick quiz with you all to highlight the wasteful way in which we currently use our resources, and to help us sort of to begin to change our thought processes a little bit. So I've got 3 questions that I'll shout out. So please either come off mute and shout out your answers, or pop them in the chat box, and hopefully Peter or Leslie can keep an eye on the chat box for me and call out the answers that might come through that way as well. So our first question is, on average, what percentage of its life do you think a standard domestic car is driven for? Any thoughts? So on average, what percentage of its life do you think a standard domestic car is driven for? Any thoughts? And this is a pre-COVID statistic, so think pre-2020.
Joanna's saying 5%, Jennifer's 20%, Victoria 20%, Karen 5%, Carla 10%, Jane 25%, Karen 15%.
Thank you, Leslie. So there's a bit of a range of answers there, but it's pretty striking, and especially as this is pre-COVID, that it's only 8%. That means for a staggering 92% of a domestic car's life, it's parked up and not being used, which is pretty shocking, really. And our second question is, on average, for how many minutes is a standard household drill used for during its lifetime? So this time is minutes. How many minutes do we think a standard household drill is used for during its lifetime?
Victoria saying 90 minutes, Karen 1, Jennifer 270 minutes, Joanna 600, Jane 500, Carla 10 minutes.
Minutes. Again, quite a range from 1 minute and up. It's only 13 minutes, which really begs the question why we all need individual drills within our households when we're not using them for very long at all. And then our final statistic is quite a well-known one. So this one is from field to fork, what percentage of the food we produce is used and what percentage is wasted. So that's from field to fork, what percentage of the food that we produce is used and what percentage is wasted. Any thoughts there?
Joanna 75 used, 25 waste, Victoria 45.
So only 66% of the food we produce is used and a huge amount goes to waste, which is 33%. And you know, that's not just worrying in terms of the waste and the emissions from the waste, but all the energy and the time and the money that's gone into producing that food for it to just go to waste is really quite shocking and a huge challenge that we need to overcome. And 4/5 or 80% of Scotland's carbon footprint is generated by the vast amounts of goods and materials which we produce, we consume, and then we throw away. And we throw away this stuff often after just one use. And this is the single greatest cause of the climate crisis, and it's an issue that we all need to address. And as we look at recovery from the current pandemic, the government is recognising that rebuilding can't just be about returning the economy to its previous state. And we're planning a green recovery, and the circular economy is going to play a big part in that, allowing us to collectively meet the Scottish Government's pledge to end Scotland's contribution to the climate crisis by 2045. So what is the circular economy? So the circular economy is a fundamental shift in the way that we manufacture, the way that we use, and the way that we view products and materials. So it reduces waste to a minimum by recovering and reusing as many products and materials as possible over and over again. And the circular economy is built on the 3 core principles that you'll see in this slide. So 1, design out waste and pollution. 2, keep products and materials in use. And 3, regenerate natural systems. And in contrast to that linear model, it is a make, remake, reuse economy. And through maximising and maintaining the value of resources, we can cut consumption of raw materials vulnerable to climate risks and build supply chains that are diverse, distributed, flexible, and that are resilient as well. Now, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation have created a really good fun video which introduces the concept of the circular economy. So I'm going to play the video now. Hopefully it all works well. I'm going to put myself on mute first and then play the video. Please shout out or pop in the chat if it's not working for you.
Years and will be around for many more. In the living world, there's no landfill. Instead, materials flow. One species' waste is another's food, energy is provided by the sun, things grow, then die, and nutrients return to the soil safely. And it works. Yet as humans, we've adopted a linear approach. We take, we make, and we dispose. A new phone comes out, so we ditch the old one. Our washing machine packs up, so we buy another. Each time we do this, we're eating into a finite supply of resources and often producing toxic waste. It simply can't work long term. So what can? If we accept that the living world's cyclical model works, can we change our way of thinking so that we too operate a circular economy? Let's start with the biological cycle. How can our waste build capital rather than reduce it? By rethinking and redesigning products and components and the packaging they come in, we can create safe and compostable materials that help grow more stuff. As they say in the movies, no resources have been lost in the making of this material. So what about the washing machines, mobile phones, fridges? We know they don't biodegrade. Here, we're talking about another sort of rethink, a way to cycle valuable metals, polymers, and alloys so they maintain their quality and continue to be useful beyond the shelf life of individual products. What if the goods of today became the resources of tomorrow? It makes commercial sense. Instead of the throw away and replace culture we've become used to, we'd adopt a return and renew one, where products and components are designed to be disassembled and regenerated. One solution may be to rethink the way we view ownership. What if we never actually owned our technologies? We simply licensed them from the manufacturers. Now, let's put these two cycles together. Imagine if we could design products to come back to their makers, their technical materials being reused and their biological parts increasing agricultural value. And imagine that these products are made and transported using renewable energy. Here we have a model that builds prosperity long term. And the good news is, there are already companies out there who are beginning to adopt this way of working. But the circular economy isn't about one manufacturer changing one product. It's about all the interconnecting companies that form our infrastructure and economy coming together. It's about energy. It's about rethinking the operating system itself. We have a fantastic opportunity to open new perspectives and new horizons. Instead of remaining trapped in the frustrations of the present, with creativity and innovation, we really can rethink and redesign our future.
I really like that video. It really highlights the fact that what we need is a systems change, and the importance of a collaborative approach to that change as well. I mean, that's drawn out in that video. And the circular economy offers businesses across all sectors an opportunity to make significant savings and profits, and also to create greater resilience within local supply chains too. Holding on to value from products, parts, and resources creates a much more efficient way of working, which ultimately leads to less spend on raw materials. And with manufacturing firms in the EU spending on average about 40% of their outgoings on raw materials, closed loop models can increase profitability whilst also sheltering from resource price fluctuations. For consumers, the circular economy will provide high quality, functional, and safe products which are efficient and affordable. They're going to last longer, and they're going to be designed for reuse, for repair, and for really high quality recycling. And creating more sustainable business models isn't just about the environment. It can save money, it can build brand affinity with customers, it can provide companies with a competitive advantage, create opportunities for new business models and opportunities for new revenue generating opportunities too. So we're going to do our first breakout session now, which we will just stay in one group to do. So on Monday, I think Laurie and his colleagues sent out some workshop materials, and as part of that pack you should have some 30 idea Kickstarter cards. So these cards present 30 interesting questions, and then they showcase some businesses, most of which are in Scotland, that are already doing things in slightly different ways. So we're going to spend a few minutes looking through the cards. And it'd be great if you could pick out a card that stands out to you. It might be something that stands out to you as an individual, or an opportunity within your sector, or an opportunity to your business. And then we'll come as a group and we will discuss those cards and some of the concepts, and we can focus in on the opportunities, but also some of the challenges that some of these models might have in a more rural economy as well. So I'm just going to bring you all onto the screen. Has everybody got access to the 30 idea card set?
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we sort of spend a few minutes looking through the cards, and then start a discussion about them? So maybe I don't know, if we have a look at them until about 34 minutes past, and then we can have a conversation about them.
Okay.
Does anyone want to kick off the conversation with anything that might have jumped out at them?
I'm happy to go.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen.
So I guess the one that stands out for me is, what if you charge per month for your product? And then I think the other question was kind of offering your customers access to the product rather than ownership. No, actually, it wasn't that one. It was basically one about recycling. It's about recycling. What is charged per UC? Basically, what I'd love to bring at Ballindarloch is that there's so many bottles out there, and yes, glass bottles are recyclable, but I would love to bring into Ballindarloch where they buy into a beautiful bottle, but it gets refilled. So there's less going to landfill, because even recycling glass has an expense as well, because you've got to melt the glass. So something along those lines. Sorry for that.
No, that's excellent. There's probably a few that touch on that in terms of refill, and also some of the technologies to allow to sort of track packaging as well. In fact, we'll touch on a case study further into the workshop. A company in Scotland creating the digital technology to support sort of take back models as well. But yeah, it's interesting, because you might expect for it to be recyclable to be enough, but then the energy and the time and the money and the whole process that goes into recycling glass, when actually you could just be reusing the bottle because it's good enough quality to reuse, is a really interesting concept. So have you explored it much at the distillery?
No, I've only been at Ballindarloch for 8 weeks now. So
oh wow, okay.
If anybody's got any advice.
We did that a webinar last week, the week before, on refill models, so we can send a recording to you. We'll pop it in the materials and the follow-up.
That'd be great. I'd love that. Thank you.
Anybody else want to jump in with any of the concepts? Victoria?
I would love to be able to share our sustainable ambitions with our customers. As a camping and glamping site, we have experienced this year people being incredibly wasteful, being somewhat irresponsible at times with the way that they deal with waste, all kinds of waste, let's put it that way. And I don't want to be preachy to my customers. I don't want to be forcing our desires upon them. And I really want to get them on board with really recycling everything, sorting out their waste when they're on site, and being generally more responsible. And I think it would strengthen our own brand if we were actually seen as being responsible, not just to our own guests, but from the community as a whole, because I think camping and camper vans have had quite a bad press recently, and I think it really needs to be dealt with.
Definitely. And so you say there's been a sort of an increase in that this year. Are you seeing a different customer base? What do you think's caused that change?
I think because it's always been a problem. And I spend quite a lot of my time in the bins sorting things out, which isn't a particularly fun pastime. This year, I think because of the staycation boom, because people haven't been going away, people have come camping this year that have never ever been camping before. So we've had entire tents dumped when people leave, because maybe they're not ever going to do it again, or they've broken it when they put it up because they don't know how to put it up properly. People buying really cheap things because it's a cheap holiday, so they're going to buy cheap deck chairs. It's been really, really upsetting to see what's been wasted. And I really want to stop it.
Yeah. Thank you, Victoria. Does anybody else want to come in with some of the, well, to follow up on that point, because I think some of you have probably experienced that as well, or any of the concepts within the card. Joanna?
I think Victoria raises a really interesting point. The point that I was going to raise anyway was actually it's changing the mindsets of people, because actually it's consumer pressure is going to encourage a lot of businesses to do this. And if you can meet in the middle, so that actually Victoria's clients are asking her, how can I recycle this? Or what can I do with that? Or I've got this food that I don't want to take home. It's a bit iffy, but where can it go? Or it's within date, where can it go? Whatever. That I think that would help enormously. And I think actually there's an interesting thing. I would really appreciate the accommodation providers and the self-caterers thinking about this, because I know when we go away self-catering, there's a question about, do we take our own oil, herbs, stuff with us, or do we buy it when we're there? What do we do with it at the end? And actually, if people knew that there was a basic, there was some sugar, some this, some that, you know, you don't want to buy a whole lot of sugar because one of your people want sugar on in a cup of tea and he's only going to have 5 cups while you're away. How do you know, how can people help other people do the right thing?
Yeah, make it easy to do the right thing as well. Yeah. Does anybody else want to come in with some of the concepts presented in the cards? Well, we can leave. You've obviously got access to the resource, so you can spend a bit more time going through some of the concepts and having a look at some of the businesses already doing things slightly differently in Scotland, and have a think about how that relates to. I think that these cards are actually really good for thinking about yourself as a consumer and how you actually buy and use things on a day-to-day basis. They're quite good for that as well. So we'll move on then to the next section of the workshop. So we're going to have a look at some strategies that we need to look at in order to support the development of a more circular economy for Scotland. So you'll see these 9 strategies on your screen, and I'm going to run through them each in order and give some examples of them in action. So first of all, we've got design. And design really sits at the heart of the circular economy. To change the system, it requires us to redesign everything: products, business models, regions, and those linear systems that have lasted for decades. And we need to educate and inspire the design industry to take up this challenge. So when something's designed, really important decisions are made, and these impact on how a product's manufactured, how it's used, and what happens to it when it's no longer used or wanted. And it's really difficult to go back and change those decisions after the design phase. So more than 3 out of 4 decisions that directly influence material selection and manufacturing processes are determined in the design phase. And over 80% of the ecological costs are determined before a product is even created. So we have to design products that are easily repaired or remanufactured. We have to look at more modular designs and consider how we can ensure that the materials used can remain within the value chain, with manufacturers taking on board that extended producer responsibility. Now, a really good example of a company redesigning entire products to become more circular is Isla Bikes and the Imagine project. And I'm going to play a short video which talks through their project. And fingers crossed, my PowerPoint doesn't freeze again. So hopefully it works for us.
In the 1920s, some top light bulb makers realised that they weren't selling enough bulbs and that their businesses were in danger. Their solution, radical for the time, was to make their product worse, so that it would have to be replaced more often. It saved their industry, but today it is costing us the earth. Economies across the globe have adopted the model, and the rate of consumption has accelerated. Manufacturing everywhere is based on taking raw material, making products, and, when they are finished with, throwing them away. Today we dump an enormous 2.1 billion tonnes of waste, and 99% of the stuff we buy we throw away within 6 months. This can't go on.
Sustainability is a global issue. I think the solutions are going to come from individuals all the way around the world that are motivated to do things differently and come up with smart, practical solutions to the problems that we all face. We're embarking on a new project. It's very exciting, and we're hoping that once again that our customers are going to be very involved and a part of this new adventure for us. We're developing a small range of much more sustainably made bicycles. We will manufacture those in the UK and then rent them. The ownership of the bicycle and therefore the responsibility for the raw materials will remain with us. And when one child's grown out of the bicycle, it'll come back to us and we'll refurbish it and then rent it to another child. We're going to have to rethink every step of how we make bicycles, how we provide bicycles for families. And to do that, we will be looking at the way bicycles were made in the past, and then combining that with new technologies to come up with something for the future. It's our aspiration to become the cycle industry experts in the sustainable supply of bicycles. I feel really excited about it and a little bit scared as well.
Here it comes.
The biggest pleasure for me is always when I'm out and about and just coming across a child that's riding one of our bicycles.
Amazing!
Utopia is a bicycle that lasts forever.
I think that's a great saying. Utopia is a bicycle that lasts forever. And then another example of circular design is a company using design to reimagine really long-standing products and completely redesigning them. So I'll play another short video. So our next strategy is resource recovery. So using byproducts and co-products to unlock hidden value by introducing energy, materials, products, and resources back into the life cycle. And of course, maximising resource use leads to less waste, cutting environmental impact, and also wastage costs for businesses. And a really good example of resource recovery in the Highlands and Islands is the work being done by Open Bay Sunfella, and they're developing a model for commercial microalgae production. So they're working to create a method for producing algae that can work across multiple sites and locations. And once perfected, it will make it possible for businesses with nutrient-rich byproducts such as whisky distilleries to generate revenue by growing and selling microalgae. And there are really interesting things being done with byproducts and co-products across the UK. And I'm going to play another video with an example from Black Cow Vodka.
Here in West Dorset, we have a secret way to make vodka from the milk of grass-grazed cows. The milk is separated into curds and whey. The curds go off to make cheese, and the whey contains the sugar we need to produce the alcohol. Using a special yeast, the milk sugar is fermented to make a milky beer. That beer is then distilled. We blend and filter this distillate using our secret method. Black Cow, pure milk vodka. A vodka that's so smooth.
I'm not a fan of vodka,
really
but I always
drink it till the cows come
trying that. I must get a bottle of it one day to have a taste. Our third strategy is enabling technologies. So design, manufacturing, distribution can all be done digitally and in efficient ways that reduce environmental impact. So for example, monitoring product usage to reduce energy consumption, cutting down on labour and material needs through 3D printing, and streamlining distribution. And we've been working with a company in Edinburgh called Reith. And Reith are a technology firm on a mission to empower more companies and organisations to embrace circular economy models. And I've got another video which is Reith telling us about their project and their model.
We actually launched a campaign to email all the brands that we had in our bathroom cabinets to ask them why they weren't using reusable packaging. And some of the responses we got back were really helpful, actually, because they really helped us get to the heart of the problem very quickly. So one of the things that we were told was that packaging, in order to be safe for consumers, needs to be stamped with a batch code. And that's done usually with laser ink to make sure it never comes off. That becomes quite challenging when you're reusing packaging because you need to figure out a way to get rid of that stamp and restamp it. We also had businesses saying that they were really struggling to identify what kind of packaging and the design. A lot of different things need to happen to that packaging in its life cycle, and they don't know if it's going to last 100 times or just 10, and how do you design for that? And then businesses said, well, I have an inventory management system. As soon as I'm reusing packaging, I have to think about it coming back. We realized if we give every single piece of packaging a unique ID, then you can, it's almost like a passport. So every time it gets filled with a new product or cleaned or goes out to a customer, it gets another stamp in its passport.
So all the products are presented in bamboo, glass and aluminium packaging with very minimal plastic. We are really, really excited to be embarking on this project with Reith in order to enable us to reuse the packaging. Hi! I'm good.
You said that you were setting up the scanner.
Luckily, the second phone that I've got, it's okay. So, like, I'm going to make batches of moisturisers and stuff today. So is it literally just a case of I can start putting these on now and then just going for it?
I hope that it's relatively intuitive.
Right, thank you so much for that, Claire. I'm really excited to be getting started. You can use a smartphone to scan these QR codes, which will be on the packaging, which then links to the Reith platform and enables the tracking facility, which is exciting.
So I think it's really important that we continue to invest in young innovation because the perspective that you have on the world is quite different. You're possibly more up to speed with the latest technology. And it's really that systems thinking and joining the dots that's really critical. And I think when you don't know how things are done, you're able to paint a new picture of how they could be done.
And our next strategy is providing a product as a service. So here, the manufacturer, the supplier retains ownership of the product and provides it as a service to the customer. And the model presents an opportunity to offer greater customer service, but also to retain customers for life. And a really good example of a Scottish company offering this is Glasgow-based Egg Lighting. And they operate under a model that lighting should last as long as buildings. And their lighting is provided as a service. And the LED smart technologies is modular built, so it can be repaired really easily. And if parts of the lighting system need removed, the materials are refurbished, keeping them within the cycle. And next we have leasing. So again, here the manufacturer retains ownership and is responsible for delivery and for maintenance and for take back. We've got a number of companies offering leasing models across Scotland, companies like Dockster. And Dockster is a digital tool that allows companies to buy and to sell and to rent equipment and inventory within the oil and gas sector. And with one of the main barriers to reuse within the industry being the visibility of available items, Dockster developed an online marketplace to enable buyers and sellers to do business more efficiently. And leasing is actively encouraged on the tool, and Dockster also offers a transaction service to make it easier for clients to do business with one another. Our sixth strategy is remanufacturing. So products at end of usable life are disassembled into components, and those components are then brought back to the original quality, then used to create new products that are identical to the original or often even higher spec. And remanufacturing creates real business value. It allows the manufacturer to learn about the performance of their products in the market. It saves on material and manufacturing costs. It allows manufacturers to lower their ecological footprint and to control the end of life of their products. And it's also really good value for customers too, as they get really high quality as new products for a reduced price. Next, we've got reuse. So using products and materials for their intended use for as long as possible. And a great route for that is through secondhand stores, and Zero Waste Scotland have got their Revolve accreditation to support this. And Revolve is a quality standard for secondhand stores in Scotland, and we can send some information about that out after the session. And we've also supported a reuse project this year in the Highlands and Islands, looking at single-use face masks. So I will play another short video to showcase that project, which was with Prickly Thistle. And Prickly Thistle is a really pioneering brand. So actually, if you're based in the UK, you can't buy one of their face masks outright, you can only access the subscription model. And so they're really pushing people to do the most responsible thing and to get their products in the most responsible way. Our next strategy is repair. So design is really important here to ensure that products can be separated and disassembled for repair easily. And another good Scottish example of one of these strategies of repair is Renewable Parts in Argyll. And Renewable Parts own and operate a refurbishment centre for wind turbine components. And their services enable parts to be recycled and to be reused. Their reuse model provides a steady long-term income flow to the business, and it creates long-term relationships with the customers, and customers get access to spare parts at a much lower cost and with much shorter lead-in times than buying new products and spare parts. Reverse logistics is a really important part of the service that Renewable Parts offer, making it easier for customers to return their used components for repair. And our final strategy is the sharing economy. So sharing assets across multiple users, either through the manufacturer retaining ownership or peer-to-peer sharing, which is a really interesting model for our rural communities. And a really good Highlands and Islands example of sharing is the Mull and Iona Community Trust community fridge. So surplus food is provided by local businesses or members of the public, and then it's made available for collection by people who've got a use for it within the community. And the fridge is also promoted across the island to tourists, including on the ferry, encouraging them to donate their leftover provisions at the end of their stay. And it's a great example of waste prevention through a sharing model, so creating those mechanisms for goods to remain within the value chain at a local level. And across those 9 strategies, we can see that circular principles provide opportunities right across supply chains, from the manufacturing of physical assets to the way that businesses operate and the way that customers engage, with options to move from consuming vast amounts of resources to instead using services, sharing and leasing to keep products and materials within the value chain for longer. So now we've gone through those 9 strategies, we'll have another workshop session to go through some of the examples, the fictional businesses. I think as it's just, there's not as many of us as expected to do the breakout sessions. We'll just stay in one group and we'll choose one of the fictional businesses and we will just work through it as a group. So as part of the pack that was sent out to you, you should have a set of circular economy worksheets and a number of, I think there's 3 fictional business case studies there as well. So I'm just trying to think which one we should use. So I don't know if anyone's got any preferences. If we do the craft kitchens one, maybe. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on worksheet 1 and worksheet 3. So worksheet 1 is looking at the current materials and the current operations within the business. And then worksheet 3, we're going to have a look at those 9 circular economy models, and we're going to explore potential to make the craft kitchens business more circular. And this is just an opportunity to not delve straight into looking at your own business and opportunities within it, but to have a look at somebody else's business and think critically about how you might use some of those strategies to reduce environmental impact. And then you can go off after the session and work through the worksheets for your own business to try and think of some opportunities there as well. So I'm just looking at the time. So we've got about half an hour to go through this part of the session. So we'll give everybody an opportunity to go off and read the business case study. And then we'll discuss the business and then some of the opportunities as a group. So first of all, can I check that everybody's got access to the documents that they need to have a look at?
Yep.
We're all happy. Excellent. So we'll do the craft kitchen one. I'll give you, should we do the 10 past, and then you've got a chance to maybe run and grab a cup of tea as well. We'll come back at 10 past and we'll have a group discussion about craft kitchens. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can actually, that's better. Now I can see everyone again. Excellent. So yeah, hopefully everyone's had a chance to look through the worksheets and have a quick read about Craft Kitchen's business, which is a fictional business. They don't actually exist, so don't worry. So we're going to use the circular economy worksheets to have a look at the current processes within the business. So it would be great to get everybody involved in the conversation and having a think about the current processes within the business and how we might be able to begin to improve them. So I really don't want to do all the talking here, so it'd be great if you could shout out and join in. So the worksheet one is really looking at the current product journey. So the inputs, where the materials are coming from, what the materials are, and the outputs, what is the company creating and how do they create it, and how they're currently utilising the materials that they're bringing into the business. And then really interesting for the circular economy side of things, that end of life bit. So where does your product currently end up? What happens to it at end of life? Do you have any control over it? Is it recycled? Is it discarded? Is it reused? And I like that. Keep asking yourself what happens next. I think it's a really good question when you're dealing with material and product flows. So does anybody want to jump in and have a quick chat through the company and what they're currently doing, where they're sourcing their materials and how they're currently using them?
I think it was interesting that they're not sharing with their customers where they're sourcing their materials from, which was something that I mentioned in the brief. So why aren't they sharing it?
Yeah, and even if they don't have anything to hide, then it could look like you have something to hide if you're not sharing where you're sourcing all your materials from. Yeah, and there was quite a mix of places where they were sourcing the materials from, depending on what they were. And there was stuff coming in from all over the world, wasn't there, really? Quite a large range of materials that the company is using, from wood to granite to some of the plastic and metal fittings as well. So quite a wide range of materials sourced from a wide range of places.
There's also an implication that some of the wood may be from non-sustainable sources.
So that they're trying their best, but they're still not fully in control of where they're sourcing that material. And I guess the further away your sourcing is, the harder it is to control or really have oversight of how sustainable that sourcing is as well.
It also says they're trying to offer a large range to the customer, so sourcing in China. Maybe it's a case of streamlining their product rather than having this never-ending Aladdin's cave that you can
have options.
Yeah.
Which is what I think as consumers we've got too used to that, of having a never-ending supply of options and materials to choose from.
But it's also sometimes can be completely overwhelming. And actually, if you're just given something that's really fantastic at the start, do you necessarily need it to be so bespoke? Or actually is what they're have more confidence in what they're creating, that actually they're going to give you something that's fantastic and not have to give you loads and loads of choices?
Definitely agree with that. And what about that end of life piece then? What are your thoughts? How much control do you think that they currently have, or even insights into that end of life of their product offering?
I think there was mention of skips, which seems contrary to some of the philosophy that was behind what was written. So I think they need to look at that, what they're actually doing with the end of the product, and there's some of that will be usable, and if it's not usable, then should they be offering it out in the first place?
Any other thoughts on that end of life piece?
I think it depends whether, I mean, they presumably, maybe, they're taking out other people's kitchens, but it also sounds as though they're taking out their own. And that may be quite different, because actually if you're ripping out somebody else's really not very good material, that's a different thing from if you're taking out something that you know you've built that is designed to last for 50 years.
Yeah, so yeah, you know what the material is, and you have a better idea and process on how to deal with it. Whereas if you're dealing with materials that you've not come across before, you're not quite sure what they're made up of or the quality of them, then it's going to be much more difficult, definitely. So we will, well, it's always hard to not jump onto the solutions when you start discussing how the business is operating. So we'll jump to worksheet 3, shall we? And start, and I'm sorry, Victoria, were you going to say something?
Well, I just think there could really be missing a trick to maintain customers who've already bought a kitchen from them, and then kind of reel them back in to get that new kitchen, because would be some kind of incentive for them to either reuse, remodel, but also recycle.
Yeah, so that incentivizing piece is probably going to be really important. So just to structure our conversation, we'll jump to worksheet 3, which is examining those 9 circular strategies that we went through previously. So looking at the opportunities for change. So do any of the strategies that we discussed align with the business, or could they even be using multiple strategies to improve their operations? What are those strategies, and what could the potential business benefit be that revenue, customer, or circular sustainable advantages, and then having to think about, well, how would they begin to implement that within their business, and what are the opportunities for change? So from those circular strategies that we worked through, what do you think, which ones stand out to you as having potential for craft kitchens? And we can really think, because it's not a real business, we can think outside the box here. It doesn't have to be like fully based in reality. We can be quite out the box with our thinking. Any thoughts for this business?
They could look at redesign and reuse of the cabinets if they're really high quality.
Yep, definitely repair. And I quite like the idea of leasing your kitchen and being able to get a new one every 5 or 6 years or something, have a new kitchen.
I like that idea. How easy do you think that would be to sell that completely new model to the customer, where you don't own your kitchen, you lease it?
I think it could be interesting.
I think if you, or lease it, but also, I mean, refurbish it, because actually, the shape of the carcasses hasn't changed and is unlikely to change. So it's a question of saying, actually, take it out, put on new doors, new work surface, but reuse the shelves, the backs, the carcasses and everything else to replan, but you don't have to start again from scratch. So refurbish or recycle, And the other thing,
put a bit of paint on them as well. Just easy change of colour or change of colour scheme, whatever. Just the kitchen cupboards are easily painted, so they could be offering that sort of service as well.
A redesign service rather than a refit, or definitely. Sorry, Jo,
take it right back to the circular design. So when they're, instead of going with the designs that they have at the moment, strip them right back and design them for that purpose. Design the cabinets so that they can easily change out the cupboards and the plinths and the kickboards, so that the kitchen looks refreshed to a really high spec in that 13 to 15 year period where customers are routinely replacing their kitchens anyway.
Definitely. And I think we'd already touched on redesign, but even redesigning the way that they source materials and the materials they're sourcing in order to fit that new model as well. Any other thoughts on some of the opportunities? So we've touched on redesign and leasing instead of selling their product. Do any other of those strategies stand out to anyone? I'll bring them back up onto the screen so we can.
Repurposing, just as an example, when we had a new kitchen, the old kitchen went in the garage, and actually that's made it. It gives you garage storage, and it's been used there rather than gone in the skip.
So finding
they can offer.
It might not be a kitchen, the next stage in the materials life cycle might not necessarily be a kitchen, it could be something else. A new product
Storage.
range.
Yeah, storage somewhere else.
Definitely. Or even I think when we've done this session before, people talking about if the old kitchens aren't necessarily fit for households anymore, maybe using them for other purposes, or sort of working kitchens or social housing, and so you have that sort of social impact as part of the business model as well. I think were some of the ideas that came up. And what about enabling technologies? And there's any opportunities within that space to support a better model?
Well, remind me what enabling technologies is.
So just using digital technology in order to support more circular processes. So the example there in the presentation was a tracking service, a digital passport for reusable packaging. So do you think there's any way of, I don't know, of tracking the life cycle of the kitchen or some of the components of the kitchen?
Possibly, but also maybe in the design stage, what you're selling it. I mean, I think Magnet do this already. You can, digitally show them what the kitchen would look like, and then show them how they could change it again in 5 years' time, but without having to rebuy everything.
Yeah,
excellent. Encourage them to play around with it.
Definitely. Yeah, I think there's some really good ideas came through there. It always comes back to the idea of I think there's a business model there definitely around leasing your kitchen. I really like that idea. I think somebody needs to pick that up at some point and take it forward. Anyone want to?
We've had some girls living with us for a while from Germany, and they said that it's very normal there that your flats, when you rent your flats, don't come with a kitchen. You take your kitchen with you.
Oh wow!
So it's basically all of them are modular designs. And she said, "Oh, we've got our kitchen, we've got our new flat, but it doesn't have a kitchen." I was like, "How can it not have a kitchen?" She said, "Oh no, we don't get kitchens with our flats. You take your own." And I thought that was a really interesting idea.
Yeah, that's gosh, I just think it's hard enough packing up when you move without taking the whole kitchen and the kitchen sink with you.
Yeah, but that they do that as quite standard apparently, and not many people own.
That sounds great. It's a good
Not
idea.
a lot of people own their homes. They tend to rent.
Yeah.
So you invest in something that you love and you take it with you.
And you take it with you. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll need to look into that. That sounds good.
We rented in France. Same thing. We had a kitchen sink and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Anyone get any other points on some potential circular strategies or ways that the business could improve their model? No, I think we've explored most things there. So really, this exercise was just giving you an opportunity to start thinking about those opportunities and opportunities right from sourcing materials up to the end of life of a product, without having to do it with your own business on the spot. But please feel free to go through those worksheets after the workshop session, and also if you fill them out, you're welcome to send them in to us at Zero Waste Scotland, and we could then build in some advice or guidance or signpost you to businesses already doing the same thing. We could put a bit of a bespoke support report together for you. If you want to have a go at completing the worksheets, please do and send them in to us and we'll get back to you. So, all right, I've got too many things open on my screen now. So we'll move on. So we have created some top tips for businesses beginning their circular economy journey, which might be quite useful. So it's not all about creating new innovative products. How can the strategies that we've discussed in the session be built into your current business model? Don't try and tackle too many things at once. Start with one thing, and even if it's just a small thing, like understanding your energy usage and waste streams, and then build on that and build on activity rather than trying to tackle everything at once. Think about that full life cycle of materials and products. Are there more sustainable alternatives to some of the materials and products that you're sourcing within your business? a really important one, and especially I think within the rural economy, but also within the tourism sector as well. Collaboration is key. And so how can you work with other businesses and with the local community to improve efficiencies and create a more sustainable local economy? So sharing some of that messaging and sharing a journey across a local area can be really, really useful. And then that final one, which I think we touched on already, is about communicating and sharing your ambitions and your journey with with your customers, but also with your supply chain and with the local economy and local community as well. Can really help draw on ideas, bring people into that journey with you, and help accelerate it. So I'll finish off with an overview of some of the support that we offer at Zero Waste Scotland. So we have got our Scottish Circular Economy Business Network, or SCEBN, which is slightly easier to say, and it's overseen by an active steering group, and it provides opportunities for businesses based in Scotland to come together and focus on collaborative action and work together to drive forward the circular economy in Scotland. And we'll send out a link with further information about the SCEBN network after the session. We also have our Circular Economy Business Support Service, and this provides dedicated consultancy support to businesses and to social enterprises looking to take forward circular economy projects within their own organisation. So if you've got a specific project that you're looking to develop and you need a little bit of support to really define it and refine it and take it forward, then get in touch and we can have a chat about the support service. We have a circular economy investment fund, and it is still currently open for applications. It's quite high level funding, so it provides funding for circular economy projects that are at commercialisation stage, and it's funding from £50,000 to £1 million. So it's pretty large scale funding, and they're looking for projects that are demonstrating significant carbon savings as a result of the project. And we're looking for projects within our priority sectors of energy, construction and the bioeconomy this year. We also have a huge range of resources on our website, so from food waste reduction guidance, circular construction best practice, information about the Revolve accreditation, which I spoke about earlier for third sector organisations, and also details on upcoming legislation such as the Single-Use Plastic Directive and the Deposit Return Scheme, which are both due to come into play next year or the year after. So again, we'll send out some links to the various resources available on our website, but there's a huge number of guides and guidance and resources and case studies on there. And then we've actually also got a really good new section that's dedicated to COP26. We've got a huge number of new case studies and things on there as well. And then I also wanted to highlight our energy efficiency business support service. So this service offers free advice and technical support. It shares best practice and new technologies to support organisations to become more energy efficient and to reduce their carbon footprint. So businesses can receive a free virtual energy audit, and it's a really good starting point for businesses looking to improve efficiencies. So you can refer yourself into the service through the website, and again we'll send a link. And then following on from the audit, there's also a 0% interest loan to take forward some of the recommendations, and it's also got a generous cashback incentive attached to it at the moment. So if you're looking to invest in any renewable technologies, now is a good time to do it. There's lots of support out there to take it forward. So that, we're finishing a bit early. So I hadn't moved my slide on. So that's our Circular Economy Accelerator website. So again, we'll send a link to that, and it's got some great top tips for businesses and some case studies as well. And that's the information about our energy efficiency business support service. And again, we'll send the details out after the session. And given the numbers, we've managed to finish in record time today. So we've got a half an hour back, but we can open it up to any questions. If anyone's got any specific questions about their own business or about the support on offer, then please jump in, and happy to chat at the moment.
We've opened Cooler Coffee Hut at Duffus Estate this year, down at Duffus Castle, and we've been really focused on researching to make sure that we're buying local and we are managing our waste in as a sustainable way as possible. One of the things that I've seen is reusing the coffee grounds and recycling them in different ways. But in our rural economy, there don't seem to be any opportunities to recycle our coffee grounds. And it seems like such a basic thing. And I contacted loads and loads of different people right across the spectrum who might be able to make use of these used coffee grounds, and just hit a brick wall. So we've kind of stuttered on that point. And I was just wanting to open it up to see if anybody had any experience of how to recycle things such as coffee grounds.
Victoria's got her hands up.
Does it not work as a slug repellent? Just a really bizarre thing. Is there not something about slugs and gardening with coffee grounds?
I think there is, but the heat generated as the coffee starts to compost actually burns the plants. So you've got to be really careful in how you use it. I know that Starbucks rebag it and offer it to their customers as compostable material, and that's something that we're looking at. But and I know that forests used to grow their mushrooms in coffee grounds, but they now do it in sawdust. And I think in the Central Belt, there's lots of places that pick up and reuse and recycle. But even like the local, what do you call them, allotment groups, they didn't seem to be interested in that. It is just one coffee hut. We're not going to generate
the volumes.
Yeah.
I don't know, Peter or Leslie, I don't know if Peter's still there. I know we get quite a lot of inquiries about coffee grounds. I don't know, is there any suggestions when you're talking in quite small volumes that we've advised companies to look at?
I mean, there's various things you can do. It can be composted or mixed into compost, but you can also use it to produce like briquettes or kind of logs for biofuel. If you dry it and compress it, you can burn it, and it creates fuel, although obviously there's still a kind of carbon impact associated with that. But yeah, there are a lot of high value things you can do with it, but the challenge is always the logistics. It's how you bulk it and store it, and then if you have to transport it any great distance, that potentially offsets the benefit of doing it in the first place. So yeah, I mean, I can dig out some resources, and if Helen's sending around an update after the session, we can include it in that.
Thank you.
If Leslie has any other thoughts.
Jennifer, it might be worth also talking to other coffee shops, because actually if there was a sort of central place that actually had more than a few more people contributing their grounds, that might actually make it viable, subject to the storage.
Yeah,
I think volume often is the trick. I mean, like the companies that are out there, if you can generate enough volume to make it interesting for them, they may even offer a collection service. Companies like Revive or there's another one which I know, BioBean, I think. But we'll send some stuff around.
Okay, thank you.
It also makes a good exfoliating scrub. Just yeah, I've actually seen quite a lot of those, like these new exfoliating coffee ground creams. It's definitely becoming a thing, but I don't actually know how well it is, but I don't know. It's obviously something that's in topic at the moment. There's obviously a lot of people wanting to figure out a way to get around this.
I'm sure if you Google it, you'll come up with the whole list.
Yeah,
lots of recipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm certainly more familiar with all the things you can do and can't do with coffee grounds now than I was 6 months ago.
We've probably got some recipes on our own consumer site for coffee grounds. I'm sure we can send some over as well. Has anyone got any other sort of specific questions about opportunities or issues within their own business that they want to bring up now as we're here? But again, feel free to either go through the worksheets or come back to us with any questions or any opportunities or challenges that you're facing, and we're more than happy to have a follow-up chat.
Jennifer, Jennifer, do you buy your coffee grounds in sacks?
I think they get delivered in bags.
All right, okay, because beekeepers are always really keen to have coffee sacks.
All right.
Yeah, for their smokers.
Uh-huh.
So if anybody has Hessian sacks, they definitely have a reuse.
I'll feed that back to our supplier because I know their beans come in Hessian sacks.
Excellent. Laurie, will I pass back to you for any final words before we close off?
I'm sorry, I don't usually lurk in these things, but I thought this time I was going to lurk and leave it to everyone else, and it's been really interesting. So thank you. Sorry that we had some technicals, but David will seamlessly edit the recording so that there will be no technicals and everything will be wonderful and everyone will be touched up with post-production and photoshopping. Thank you all for coming. Huge thanks to Helen and her colleagues from Zero Waste Scotland. I would say that probably the second most common inquiry I get in my inbox is around funding to support projects which are at their broadest level green. So there is I'm going to say a huge amount of support out there if you've got an idea and if you've got something you want to do at the business. And I think what Helen said is absolutely right. Now is the time to do it. There's also recently, just yesterday, announced a capital investment for young companies, which is HIE funding. Fairly significant amounts for companies for companies younger than 5 years, which unusually covers capital equipment and that kind of stuff too. So if you've got a big idea, now's the time to speak to these guys. Surf the web, go to our website, go to Zero Waste Scotland, touch base with HIE, because there'll be someone there who can support your aspirations. And hopefully, I don't want to talk out of turn when my colleague Rachel's not here, but we are aiming to sign the Tourism Declares statement towards the end of this month. So excited about our commitment to net zero and stuff. So guys, thank you all very much. We'll send the slides out. David will edit the video. It will all be up and ready for you by about lunchtime tomorrow. But I see Leslie's just put her hand up, so I know she's maybe it's.
I think she's clapping, Laurie.
Was that a clap? Sorry, well, it shows just as well. I'm not in charge of social media for the company, isn't it? Because I can't even tell a clap from her hand. But thank you, everyone. It's been wonderful. It always
Thanks,
is.
everyone.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
you.
See you all again.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.